Hi there, I'm Clive Smith, and this, of course, is Rock and Roll, a film that was finished in 1983 and should have made millions, but was actually not released at that time. I directed the film, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the production, how we did things, some of the techniques, methods, thoughts we had during the production. It was called Rock and Roll. It was actually called Drats originally, but I'll tell you about that later. This opening sequence, the storm sequence, was very integral to the ideas of the story, in as much as the electrical storm provided energy to the power of the town where our protagonists live. The town, of course, is called ohmTown, and it was way, way up in the mountains with this incredible power plant. We experimented with different ways to do the clouds. Remember, the film was made when digital imaging and CGI effects were pretty much in their infancy. We had none of those tools to use. Everything was really hand-drawn, or we used various sort of photographic techniques that were available at the time. We tried airbrushing the clouds, which looked pretty awful and very flat. Dennis Brown, who ran the photographic department, and Lenora Hume also, came up with the idea of using this cotton wool stuff. And it's actually a fibrous material that's used for fish tank filters.
Survivors.
We decided on this introductory commentary and crawl since the whole concept had come a long way during the development. It came a long way from Drats, which was the original title, and we needed to give the audience a little bit of background on the characters in this post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear world that we had developed. We started development of the film in 1978 as Drats, as I said. And it was a film that was skewed to a much younger audience, with softer, younger characters, and it was a bit more sort of Grimm's fairy tale quality about it. Our lead female actually was changed into a guitar in that version. But as the film developed, it became darker and it became sort of more adult. Peak of production, we had a crew of over 200 people, all young, talented animation graduates. All of us were pretty new to the business. Rock and Roll was in production for about 3 years, and we did practically everything in our Toronto studio.
Oh, at last. We see every new singer in the whole country.
This scene to me always felt a little bit clumsy and a little bit out of place, but again it was helpful in setting up Mock's story and what his motivation was.
In town.
It kind of broke up the flow between the cloud sequence and the traveling, which kind of annoyed me a little bit. Now this background here was a painted illustration, and the car traveling on it and all the twinkling lights were burnt in on another pass, and we used a very kind of a archaic device, not unlike a torture device really. The cars were sort of physically dragged through little walled corridors that were built up on a board, and the lights were turned on and off. It was a very, very primitive kind of system we used, but it did work. We actually shot it about 30 times before we got it right, I think.
Computer, report on all.
Most of the film is hand-drawn, hand-animated, painted. We didn't even have a Xerox machine in those days, so a lot of the cells were actually hand-traced. But this is the computer in Mock's car, and it's actually one of the few effects that we created with computer graphics. The Armageddon key, which is what you see turning, was a slit-scan effect using our motion-controlled Oxbury animation stand.
Most recent
the Armageddon key was originally the Yensid key, which is Disney backwards. The image of the computer itself, the actual character on the screen, was a very simple computer-generated wireframe. It was pretty impressive back in the 70s.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That one voice.
We've also deliberately avoided revealing Mock, who we're obviously saving for later.
scientific breakthrough for me. An unforgettable magic show.
So now we understand what Mock is looking for. He's continuing his search for this particular voice. And we're backstage now in this grungy hometown club called Mylar's. We wanted to develop this look of a lived-in, futuristic world kind of gone wrong. You know, the technology isn't really what it turned out to be, and it's very sort of a primitive technology. So we're setting up Omar and Angel, our main characters. Omar was animated by Frank Nissen, who was very much my right hand on this project, and Anne-Marie Bardwell animated Angel. We cast animators to characters in the same way that we would cast the voice actors. And this video game, again, it was a series of slit scans and back projection, but it was all shot on an animation stand with colored gels and backlighting. No computer-generated imagery here. Dizzy was animated by Charlie Bonifacio and stretched by Bill Spears. A scene here, which would be, you know, two characters relating to each other, would be actually animated by two completely different people in different rooms. So they obviously had to develop a relationship themselves in order to allow that to work.
We got a song to get off.
2 songs.
Yeah.
Omar acting very cool. We kind of used James Dean as a model for him. We wanted him to be very cool and very tough, but also likable.
Hey, it worked! I'm not nervous. I'm scared.
Any resemblance to a famous rock and roll star there is purely coincidental. Mylar is the club owner. He was inspired by a local comedy club entrepreneur who we actually invited to the studio to do some casting. And mostly it was myself and Frank and Patrick who did the casting. This is the first song from Cheap Trick, who we cast for Omar's music. The lead singer is Robin Zander, and he performs Omar's singing voice. They were a great choice. Now this sequence is interesting. We actually shot live action. We had 4 actors playing each of the performers, and we filmed them performing against this song, like miming the song, just to get some ideas, just to get some sort of realistic motion. And what we did here, well, what Frank did here was take the existing images that were shot on live action and just exaggerate them. Obviously, the performers didn't quite do what Omar did there on the stage, but pretty close to. Animating people dancing, animating people singing, animating people being cool and rock and roll is pretty difficult, and if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. So we really wanted to get some believability in this. As part of the ongoing process of designing the film, we now needed band instruments, and we needed them to reflect this kind of futuristic world. And they had to meld into the distorted technology of the time and the period. They also had to be recognizable and playable. Dizzy's drum kit. We came up with this kind of acoustic, electronic, solar system way before Digidrums came out. So I think we invented them. I remember Rob Kirkpatrick, who was at the time a junior editor. He was also a drummer. And he spent time with Charlie, teaching him a little bit of stick handling. We cast Debbie Harry from the band Blondie to do Angel's singing voice. Debbie and Chris Stein wrote all of Angel's songs, of course. And Debbie did a fabulous job doing Angel's voice. She also matched very well the talking voice of Angel, which was Susan Roman. Met with Debbie Harry in New York many times to discuss Angel and to discuss, what her personality was and what her attitude was and why she would be singing this song, how she would be singing it. It's also a song that's very much setting up the finale. The various songwriters would send us roughs of the music, and we would listen to them, or we might even put them up against a picture or a Leica reel, see if they work and get back to them and maybe make some suggestions, maybe not. Most cases, the songs were very, very good from the beginning. We didn't really ask for a lot of changes. I was involved very much in the recording. I was always there in the studio and making sure that the music worked with the picture and worked, and it had the right kind of spirit that we needed.
Could make us both a bundle. Tidy some.
Here's Mylar at his sleaziest.
Hey, I didn't say it was this band, did I?
So he always sucks up to everybody. We gave Angel's hair a little bit of a treatment here. We sort of overexposed it and used a fog filter to help tie her into the effect that we're about to see, which is Mock's ring glowing. And we came up with this idea of the ring that flashes, that tells him it's the voice. There, you couldn't be more obvious than that, could you? It's a little bit on the nose, I suppose.
Like I said, this band's on its way to fame and fortune.
All right.
This is the voice of Martin Lavatt. He's a Canadian actor, writer. He's doing the voice of Mylar. He is also a director.
An influential friend of mine, the only hometown rocker to have a record go gold, platinum, and plutonium.
Interesting about Stretch is that he was originally performed by Howie Mandel. And Howie, of course, lived in Toronto at the time. And we worked with him for, quite a while. But he got famous and moved to LA and got really busy before he completed the picture. So Greg Duffel, who was one of our animators and writers, multi-talented character, revoiced the entire Mylar character. Greg also wrote some very funny sequences for the film.
Old-fashioned but new. I love it.
So here we get to see a little bit more of ohmTown, a little bit more of the dark, scary side of ohmTown.
Where'd Angel go?
Again, trying to promote the idea that this was a future that was very run down and yet very technologically advanced. We've got floating cars and buildings that kind of look like they're operated by steam as well as electricity. It was a real mix of old and new. It was a kind of a world of distorted reality that we built. This little garbage lady we stuck in here, we stuck her in to set her up for a funny moment later on. We tried a few different methods of animating vehicles as well, and we found that actually animating them was not as successful as building them. We physically built models of these automobiles, and then we filmed them on a small stage, and then used the individual frames for combining with the animation. Like, we didn't actually use the film, but we would just use the drawings as reference, or the photographs as reference. Like Quadho's police car, for instance, floating around like that would have probably looked like an old slipper if we tried to animate
Hey, you
it.
guys. You were great tonight. See you later.
The score for the entire picture was composed by Patricia Cullen and engineered by David Green. Tricia was a very young and talented composer who sadly passed away very early in her career. She wrote a lot of music for the studio for other films that we had done previously. The score is absolutely gorgeous. Trish had the task of knitting together themes from a variety of writers, Debbie Harry, Rick Nielsen, Lou Reed, and she had to sort of weave these into an emotional orchestral score, which I thought she did really well. Throughout the film, you can hear snippets of the characters' themes during the score.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Every sequence was storyboarded and filmed to create what we called a Leica reel, which we would then be able to cut to the voice tracks and even sometimes the rough music tracks. So we had film to work with and not just sketches. That means we could then recut and replace shots, change angles, move dialogue, and generally work with it as an editor until the scene worked perfectly, and all this was done before any animation began. We continue to hide the identity of our villain, and we keep the mystery going here. This is Thunder Row, a sort of lover's lane high up in the hills overlooking ohmTown. It's a stormy night, of course, and again to promote the idea that ohmTown has this endless natural power source. The song is by Trish Cullen, sort of Ink Spot's crooning love song, appropriate for the moment. The spoken voices in all cases are not the same voices as the vocalists.
Omar, forget him. Look at this.
Susan Roman is Angel, and Omar was voiced by Paul and Mac.
Come on, oh, he wants to talk to us. It could be big fun.
I like that moment. Now that was Dizzy's electric car, which was a model, and we shot it in the same way that I described before, by actually making a model and shooting it in live action and using the individual frames for the animators. Now here we are at the overhead shot of ohmTown. This is the same background, the same painted background that we saw earlier. It's lit differently, and we're using the same cloud technique, the multiplane clouds on sheets of glass that are several feet above the background, using the car lighting technique and the backlights for the different effects. I think we shot this probably about 13 times before we got it right, because each pass had to match very, very closely the pass before, otherwise the car would sort of drive off the road and go into the fields. And we arrive at Mock's mansion. Louis Cravogna was our senior background artist, and he was responsible for a lot of the art direction and the look of the film. Frank and I obviously worked very, very closely with him. And here we wanted to get this sort of golden look around Mock's house and the grounds, so we chose to stage it at sunset. And it has a little bit of a sort of an Egyptian quality about it, a little bit like a golden monolith or a golden pyramid. This is Zip.
Yeah?
We're here to see more.
Voiced also by Greg Duffel.
Great to see ya.
And as we go into the mansion, it's just an absolute exaggeration. It's a huge monolithic interior. We just wanted to get it very, very, very dark and very ominous. But in introducing the Schlepper Brothers are really the comic contrast to the environment and also to Mock, who's clearly going to be very heavy.
You're not?
No.
Sorry. Mark! Great to see ya!
Tell him I was Mark.
No.
Then why
So
does
Greg
he
actually
keep
came up with a lot of this
calling
routine, a lot of this comic routine. I think he wrote a lot of this sequence.
calling me Mark?
You are calling me a liar.
I'm not.
You are so.
That's it. Party's over.
So there's a nice contrast there between the silly schleppers,
Come on, it's a waste of time.
Omar
to creep
being
around next to
tough and
Prevost mansion,
pissed off.
escorted by two of Mother Nature's finest.
So here's Toad. And now we've introduced the three roller skating Schlepper brothers,
This one talks in
Toad,
numbers.
Sleazy and Zip. They all have very different personalities, and each of them was animated by a different animator.
Or be dog food. Follow.
Here's a dramatic downshot, another view of Mock's vast space, and that's him observing in the foreground.
Make yourselves at home. Except you.
It was the freak reference, wasn't it?
You gonna apologize, rude boy?
I'm sorry. Dog breath.
What?
That line was originally Dick Nose, but we censored ourselves. So here we've got this elaborate introduction to Mock, very dynamic, and ends up with a funny line.
Anyone want a beer?
Now this is Don Franks, who was perfectly cast for Mock. A very deep and resonant sound to his voice. A lot of depth. Loved working with him. He was great. He added a hell of a lot to the character. Don Franks is a singer as well. He's a jazz singer, and He can actually sing in harmony. He can actually do 3 notes at the same time. Very clever lad, very clever lad.
it when he talks French.
A little bit about the writing. Several writers were on the project, pretty much full-time, at least during the first part of the production. And both Pete Sauder and John Halfpenny jumped in from animation to writing, and so did Ken Stevenson. And Greg Duffel wrote some of the time.
That's Omar.
We had regular meetings to review and brainstorm sequences. Patrick refereed these sessions mostly.
My last album.
I loved it.
There was really never a final script until the film was actually finished. We just had like a general outline with huge holes in it. Lots of great ideas strung together, which we then clarified and fine-tuned during script meetings and also during the storyboarding.
But where's our hospitality?
But we were writing constantly throughout the production. So we finally revealed Mock, Robin Budd's animation and Don Frank's voice. Again, any resemblance to any aging rock star is quite coincidental.
Excellent. Then I've got something you boys will really enjoy.
The voice of Omar that you're hearing was not actually the original voice that we animated to, but it was replaced by Paul the Matt. These are Edison balls that we invented that the boys are given. It's obviously a parody of an exotic mind-enhancing experience.
I had one today. And,
Where's the fat one?
fat one?
And here's Dizzy, who kept his wits about him so that at least he could crawl out and eventually save the boys. Those are actual flowers on the multiplane camera there.
So,
The camera guys and girls and the effects crew, I think they were eager to outdo the animators and background painters.
Success does have its rewards, Angel. However, such trophies are minor.
The garden sequence is interesting because it was partially an illusional sequence. And we reveal that when we see the schleppers actually controlling some of the images in a control room.
Is that too much to ask?
no, but
And this sort of was partly to emphasize the fact that Mock has this magic
so, it was
quality
still great.
about
I
him.
was there.
Don't talk to me, Angel. I'll show them power. I can do it.
We don't really know what it is. It's a sort of a technological illusion. But it illustrates Mock's theatrics and it sort of suggests what he might have been into as a performer.
One signature. Yours.
The group's just starting to come together. I think we got a pretty good chance of...
On the hometown circuit.
So the whole idea of this sequence was to get a sense that it wasn't real.
Call it what you
That
want.
partly what she's looking at is an illusion.
If you think you're going anywhere with the Omars of this world, open your eyes. Accept my offer.
No.
So this grid was like another venture for us into computer graphics. It was created in a similar way that we did some of the other stuff. It was a slit-scanned grid that was backlit with green gels. And it was all done on this monster computer that we bought called a mechanical concept stand from California. And at the time it was really state-of-the-art. And the computer that we used was called an Elecon. And it was a mighty, mighty box that was so unfriendly. And it took forever to set up, any effect, any shot. It took a lot of programming and it was very, very intense and very technical. There was no such concept as operator-friendly in those days.
Show her friends the door.
It's funny what happens to animators and their characters during a long production like this. The characters start to take on the personalities and the looks of the animators themselves, and the body language especially.
I was looking for you. What's going on? I demand an
We
answer.
approached Lou Reed to write and perform the musical voice of
Violence
Mock.
is not the answer to anything.
This is a song called Triumph,
Discuss this like
and it's the first we
civilized
hear
human beings.
from Mock singing. I think we actually hear the entire song later on.
Just watching old holograms.
It's got nothing to do with
Their
motorcycles.
brains are seized up.
This is the hologram sequence. This is sort of the result of their Edison Ball experience. This was a little piece that was, I don't know, given over to a team that came up with something that was kind of okay, but it needed some enhancement. And I took each of their drawings and used the Elecon stand to kind of streak each individual drawing and backlight it with different colors so that it created a more of a dimensional effect, and it also had a sort of a transparent quality to it. And the idea was that the whole thing was operating within this holographic cylinder.
Everyone out of the pool.
But Toad, they can't walk in this condition.
Yeah, you're right, Sleazy. I think they better drive.
So here we have the beginning of the liftoff sequence, and it's it's just showing the technology of the blimp and the building changing into a blimp. We've kind of used a sort of mix of very old style mechanical technology and electronics and purely fantastical mechanical ideas. It's a little bit of Geiger, I think, in here, and a little bit of Star Wars technology, and a little bit of everything. Sort of old-fashioned, but new. So we came up with a whole bunch of different ideas for the actual blimp itself. Different shapes and different forms. We would do that with most things in the film, come up with, a series of different ideas and gradually narrow them down until we got what we wanted.
That's what I was afraid of. These hands are lethal weapons. I could paralyze you.
The music here is important because it's building up to the big event.
This one's got lethal weapons.
Whoa, keep them away from me.
And here we just sort of keep the sense of the ship building behind us. We just hear the noise of it.
Omar, Stretch, where's Angel?
No, it looks a bit like an old tent going up right now, but that was because that was animated on cells, just regular cells. And the final image, of course, we wanted it to be, very, very clean and very ominous. And so of all the different designs we came up with, the one that I liked the best, Frank and I came up with this idea of this sort of creepy, gigantic maggot. We tried a whole bunch of different approaches for this sequence. At one point we built a model, a large-scale model of the blimp in wood, and painted it and actually filmed it and used each of those frames as an animation sequence or as part of an animation sequence, and it just didn't look right. We ended up doing a very detailed airbrushed illustration, which looks best. I mean, it looks really huge and detailed, but unfortunately it just doesn't match with the original scene.
Stretch, wake up, Stretch. I can't drive this car. All right, where are the keys? Where are the keys?
This is the runaway car sequence, and after we storyboarded it, we used models, wooden models of both Stretch's car and Quadhole's police car, again, to help the animators and establish this sense of weight and gravity. So here's the garbage lady that we saw in an earlier sequence, witnessing this destruction of Dizzy's car. The funny little cutaway. And this was, I think, Patrick's idea to have a clothes drop-off in response to the car disintegrating. It's a very strange concept, but it gets a laugh.
Oh no! This
So here we are in the town square. This is a quiet scene compared to the dynamics of the previous one. And there's some rather nice acting in this.
Okay.
From an effects point of view, there's this water splashes and the different exposures that we've used for some of the things, but nothing too fancy. It's mostly an acting scene. We've got our three characters. We've got Frank Nissen's Omar, we've got Charlotte Bonifacio's Dizzy, and Bill Spears, Stretch. And the three of them are acting very well together here.
Owes you?
I mean, us. A personal explanation.
New York's only
And this
3
is,
days away.
of course,
Take us 6 days.
setting up Omar's anger, but pretending, of course, not to be interested. And we're introducing our next character here, which is Quadhole, the policeman, in his fabulous floating car, animated by John Silvestri.
What are we doing in a public fountain?
Okay, wise guys. Into the car. Now.
Why?
You can see a little bit of the influence of Mobius in the car design, and also in some of the architectural elements in the city.
A real crime's been committed. Those goons up at Mock's place tried to push the car down.
Is this a confession?
No.
Then save it for the judge. Let's go.
Come on, Dizzy.
Huh?
I'll get the evidence.
Oh, no, you don't. I'll get the evidence.
Nah, I'll get the evidence. No, you get the evidence.
I'll get it.
No.
So we would animate these scenes sometimes 3 or 4 times until it was working properly.
I'll tell you one thing, buddy. That's a 637. And this time, I've got
Very, very loose roughs would be shot on our test camera, and we'd run them with the dialogue, and then we would, of course, fine-tune them until it was perfect.
You're welcome. Slide!
So this is our traveling sequence on the road to New York. I actually did most of the work on this sequence myself. I had some ideas I wanted to try to increase and support the intensity of the Cheap Trick track and heighten the sense of adventure. It was also a way to continue to establish this sort of futuristic electromagnetic tech world and how it might sit in the natural environment. So you get sort of the natural countryside, and you get little bits and pieces of electronics stuck inside it and poking out of it. And also, it acted as a transition from the peace and quiet of ohmTown to the vast and corrupt metropolis of New York. This was a tricky shot because it started off as an animated car on an animated background, and then it transitioned up through to an animated car on a huge still background. This was a neat idea. This was Ray Jafflees who came up with the idea of the light bridge, or the laser bridge, that just zips out a power platform made of light or some kind of energy that the car rides on. So here you can see that the car doesn't need to conform to the road winding around. It can just cut straight across the countryside because it's a hover car.
Just remember, Omar, it's not ohmTown, it's New York.
This is our first glimpse of New York, and a little taste of the dark and oppressive world that our boys are about to get into. The trapdoor style barrier was an invention of ours, and now I see them everywhere, or at least I see them at the American Embassy anywhere I go. We should get residuals for that.
Chief Inspector Quaalude, ohmTown Police. These are scientists. Big shots.
And this is Maurice LaMarche playing John Wayne, playing the border cop.
That's great. You're doing a good job.
And Omar trying to pull the wool over his eyes.
I'll just check this. Hey, this is a tuna fishing license.
And here we are actually in New York. And we introduce the city as being dark and very, very scary. Kind of like what we did here. We stuck dwellings to the sides of monstrous, cold, machine-like buildings. Little houses clinging like limpets or some kind of mold or disease. And there's no doubt that it's New York. It's a future gone wrong. It's dark and menacing. And it's a place to stick our clean country boys and make them totally vulnerable. Using things like radioactive music hall and typical AM radio announcers, all this sort of contrived to make it a believable and familiar city as well as it being obviously alien. So here we're introducing a building in New York where Angel is being kept prisoner, and there's the blimp hanging out at the top.
Okay, that's it. You're gonna stay here.
That was a mock mug, by the way. And of course it was a throwaway, as you can see. So here we have Angel, who's locked up in the tower in one of Mock's buildings in New York, by the Schlepper brothers, and she meets the Schlepper sister, Cindy, who's just as big and lovable as the Schleppers themselves. She also roller skates. Cindy weighs, 350 pounds, just like her brothers. But we animated her as if she was very, very dainty, very lightweight little angel. And it seems to work. It seems to work nicely in contrast with her design.
Yeah, I guess so, but, hey, it don't make life any easier.
Cindy knows what you're talking about, but they just don't understand us new women. After all, every now and then a girl's gotta get out and dance. Catch my drift? Gotcha.
One of the interesting things about this film, when we released it in the early 80s, the market for animation was pretty limited. It was limited mostly to children's cartoons.
I do it every Saturday night.
This picture started off as a children's film called Drats and evolved gradually as a much darker story with more adult themes. And the fact that we played with visuals like this, like Cindy's bottom squeezing out of the vent, and that earlier scene of Omar and his friends under the influence of the Edison balls, pushed the film out of the kids' realm and unfortunately between the cracks. No pun intended, sorry Cindy, because there really was no market for adult animation at the time.
Just keep your lips zipped and stick with Cindy. We're on our way to the Twilight Zone. It's just like Toad says.
There's wackos out there just waiting for sweet young things like you.
Let's go!
So this is a visual break for us. We just, obviously a very monochromatic look here while the girls are in the vent. It also gives us an opportunity to reveal Mock's plan. And we revisit the computer that we originally saw in Mock's car. We now see his giant computer and where he works in his lab and how he figures out all his dastardly deeds. And it also sort of starts to set the stage for the finale and start to construct a kind of a logic and a code that would make sense at the end of the film. This was done again using slit scan and using the computer-generated computer image.
Yes, my beast, their nightmare, all mine, for a song.
Mock is starting to look like the animator here, by the way. Or did the animator start to look like Mock? I can't remember.
You can be stopped. There is a force which can send the being back.
Send it back? What? Where?
The voice of the computer was really thought of as being like a female HAL from 2001. It was that kind of quality we wanted, that kind of very relaxed and almost sort of neutral voice. And it's the voice of Sam Langevin. And she participated a lot in the animators' workshop. So we would have these actors' workshops with the animators playing their characters, and she was doing a sort of an acting class for everybody.
Who can stop me? Is it the girl?
So this, of course, was all very sort of key story elements that we're trying to seed here as we build up the logic of what Mock really needs.
I know. One voice, one heart, one song. But who is it?
The gooey stuff back there behind the computer represents the brains of the computer. We designed it sort of to take the form of real cow brains because of the ideas that we were having for the beast in the finale. The emergence of the beast sort of ties in very nicely with that. Now, we were constantly being harassed by business affairs over legal issues and things concerning the writing, the ideas, and the budget. So we thought we'd put them in the movie as a tribute.
Wars have been started for less. When I want your opinions, I'll give them to you.
That was my line, but I think it should have been Patrick's.
We're in the clear. Come on, doll. Let's score a cab.
Whoa. Right behind you.
So now we segue into another view of New York, which gives us an opportunity to see how it's structured and the fact that there's all these hover vehicles and strange architecture that's somewhat organic and somewhat mechanical. We didn't want to stage the earlier concert in New York because it would have been overkill, so we've done it with like a radio announcement and just little bits of information that we give away here and there. This is a favourite scene of mine. This is Aunt Edith. This is Diz's auntie. And it's played by Catherine O'Hara.
So that's your real name.
Dry up, Stretch.
Ooh, touchy.
It's interesting because Frank at this point was really getting Omar's James Deanish performance down. I mean, to the point where there are certain shots that almost had no animation at all, except maybe just a hand moving, because he was playing it very, very cool.
We're a band, right?
And these guys are obviously very excited and on the case. And he's just trying to be so cool.
Because she ran off with Muck without saying goodbye? Because he's a big star and you guys are just wishing?
Catherine's performance is wonderful.
We're concerned.
It's also a very important scene because it gets the boys on track, gets them on the scent, basically, of Angel.
You never told us we were concerned.
Is it saltwater proof there?
Oh yeah, if it gives you any trouble, come on back. Okay guys, I can't tell you much about Muck, but I can tell you about Cinderella.
Oh, are you gonna tuck us in too?
Relax, Oscar. I was just beginning to like you, you little scumbag. Like I was.
Now that's Chuck Gamage's animation of Edith.
A couple of guys who work for Muck.
I think she's fabulous.
Toad, Cece, and Slip?
Yeah, close.
So where do we find her?
I know she hangs around an uptown club.
What does she look like?
Sorry, Alphonse. Everyone looks the same through this thing. But she's got a winged heart tattoo. My $14.95 special.
So here's the sailor leaving Edith's. This French-Canadian seaman was animated by Larry Jacobs. And he's a minor character, not Larry Jacobs, I mean the sailor was a minor character. He's serving good purpose. Having heard the conversation in the tattoo parlor, he's now able to connect the good guys and the bad guys and get the schleppers onto the trail of Sister Schlepper and Angel.
I'm on the level. To prove it, I got some scuttlebutt for you. Now, you set your sails for this joint downtown.
I can't say enough about how important a part music and effects and ambiences play in a production like this. An animated film has no live sound, it has no production tracks, it has nothing from location because there aren't any locations. So everything is built from the ground up, and every background ambience, every room tone, every effects have to be created. So we had a fairly extensive editorial and post-production team. Trish and David produced most of the music. Tom Joran, Robbie Kirkpatrick headed up the editing and sound division. And the final mix was overseen by Paul Quigley. So the idea of Club 666 was to create a venue with a theme or characteristics that were kind of alien but also unique and also a little familiar too, because obviously we've got to feel this is a lived-in city that we recognize.
Attaboy, Sonny, no prisoners. Okay, let's go.
we came up with this idea of anti-gravity club. It's Ken Stevenson who oversaw the production of this. And several animators, different animators, animated dancers, and doing different routines, different characters at the bar, characters jiggling, characters doing nice little dance cycles, and worked up vignettes, according to a storyboard. Now, all of these separate elements were then shipped to Montreal, where we had a camera operator there who used an aerial image camera to put everything together. And this was a device that was sort of like an optical printer, but it was basically an animation camera with a projector, and it enabled us to combine the cell animation with the effects that were pre-recorded onto film and then projected behind the new animation. We used this device, sort of created the ambience of a huge club without having to animate thousands of people all the time. So this first music track is by Earth, Wind and Fire. We went down to Los Angeles and met with Maurice White several times, and it was George Massenburg whose studio was used. He was actually the connection for Earth, Wind and Fire because he had produced them in the past. And so we met them, and they loved the project and came up with this really neat song for the club. There were some really nice dance cycles here. Charlie did one of my favorites. I think dancing is one of the hardest things to animate and make it look really believable. So all those floating blobs of light in the background were always there to sort of help the idea that it was a floating environment. The second club song was written by Trish Cullen and Melanie Melody. The Earth, Wind and Fire song was a great dance tune for the club, for the overall club environment, but we needed a darker, more sort of action-inspired song for the back end, when the boys discover Angel and Cindy and the schleppers roll in. Trish had a track, but it needed a vocal, it needed a lyric, a relevant lyric. So she called Melanie Melody, who wrote this song, Hot Dogs and Sushi, and ended the track with this enormous scream that then sort of takes us outside into the cold.
Stay close, dears.
So now we're outside the nice warm club into the hard, cold reality of New York. We wanted to create an environment here that was very, very, very hard and tough for these guys, so we created a fog effect, and it's a combination of all sorts of things, airbrush cells and actual cigarette smoke blowing across the camera, believe it or not. Multiple exposures, overexposures, backlighting, dissolves. The music and effects were a very key factor in this sequence, treating it all with that sort of echoey ambience. Again, it's all sort of illusion. It's all done to put Omar off and to disorient him.
Angel?
And we finally confront him with his worst nightmare, which is seeing Angel and Mock together.
What a pleasant and unexpected surprise.
One of the most important aspects of the production, of course, is the soundtrack. David Green helped us set up the configuration, and it was actually recorded, the music was recorded and the whole mix was done in quadraphonic sound, which at the time was very, very, very new, and not many people were using it. It was sort of front, center, left, right, and surround. And in order to make that work, it needed a very special kind of technical setup that not too many people are familiar with. So David helped us put this whole thing together.
Working with you, Mark.
Yes. Good.
The quality of the sound, the quality of the soundtrack and the sound effects, very important to get the ambience and get the spirit of the film, and to also, establish the environments. A lot of electronic ambiances, a lot of natural ambiances. We use room tone just as one would in a live-action film.
Forget it. I won't sing. And what have you done to the guys?
Paul Quigley did the final film mix, which took, a couple of weeks, I think. And then I went down to Los Angeles and spent another 4 or 5 weeks mastering it at Warner's.
Mark, and you say, no, thank you. I'm very disappointed.
Hey, listen.
But still hopeful.
Mark!
So here's Mark up to his tricks again.
When I say to you,
and this is where it gets really intense.
Angel, sing.
So we do the same thing to Angel as we did to Omar, and we confront her with her worst nightmare. And that's the fear of seeing the band being fried in this giant Edison ball. So Mark has now got both Angel and Omar exactly where he wants them. The effects in the giant Edison ball, very straightforward effects just done on the camera stand, backlighting and multi-passes of different effects. I mean, it looks simple today, but at the time it was quite inventive for us. We were kind of making it up as we went along. This is the New York bus terminal. It's cold, grungy, dirty, inhospitable. We've all been here, I'm sure.
Omar? Stretch!
And Dizzy being very rude.
Dizzy?
How are you boys doing?
Mock's character is interesting here in so much as we rarely see his human side. But here he's not just your standard world domination, one-dimensional villain. He actually does have a human side.
What have you done to them?
Bon voyage.
Airheads. Omar, I promise I'll get you out of this.
I know, Angel. It would
So the effect of this Edison ball treatment on the boys has just turned them completely upside down, turned them into idiots, turned them sort of completely opposite to what their normal characters are.
I understand.
Mark, change them back.
Now, I let them go for you.
Omar.
And you sing a little song for me.
So here we encapsulate, really, a sequence that sort of just suggests the concert and what happened. And we use a bunch of different elements here. Some of them are from the concert yet to be seen, and there's some live action cloud in there, an explosion, and a bunch of glass breaking. And it's all cut together, shot on film, transferred to video, reshot on film again, and then superimposed on the poster. This is Greg Duffel, by the way, as the newscaster. And we hear from Melanie Melody again. Now she's a concert groupie. This monologue, which was actually quite a bit longer, Melanie wrote it herself. It was very, very funny, but we had to cut it for time. The Jake and Edna scene here, this is interesting because it refers back actually to an earlier sequence that we completely cut out. This was Jake and Edna as characters at the side of the road selling mock concert t-shirts and trying to bum a ride to New York.
Destroyed Carnegie Hall, but did not completely materialize in this dimension. The electrical power supply in New York is insufficient.
I need more power?
Affirmative. A sufficient stable energy source does exist in ohmTown.
So here we have our wonderfully airbrushed illustration of the dreadful blimp.
I will raise this demon. I will not fail again. Its power will be mine.
So this upshot of the bottom of the blimp reveals a cloud, which is in fact a live-action cloud element, out of which comes Mock. And this introduces Lou Reed's song. Lou Reed, of course, being the vocal voice of Mock. The interesting thing about Lou was that of all the music that I was involved in producing with the different players and different writers, Lou Reed did not want me in the studio at all. He said, I was welcome to come down and sit in at the recording session if I wanted to be returned home in a box full of small pieces. So I decided to stay away from his recording session. And he delivered everything. He did, we met with him in Toronto and we had lunch with him, or dinner or whatever it was, and we talked about the film. We talked about Mock and, his characteristics, his personality, his motivations, and then Lou went away and wrote the songs and delivered them. Lou Reed always has those girls in the background.
My name is Mark, thanks a lot. I'm the power sound I'm used on lot.
Now Keith Ingham was one of the effects animators. He animated this sequence and came up with some of the visual ideas. It's a variety of different techniques, just straight ahead animation, backlights, streaks and scans and various filters, double exposures, just playing around with different things. The few tools that we did have in those days, but they were pretty effective.
My name is Mark, thanks a lot. My name is Mark, thanks a lot. My name is Mark.
The tunnel is just a series of staggered exposures on a circular cutout with different colored gels. And then this spins around and that effect is used to shake Mock out of his dream.
Hello, boys and girls.
Hello, Uncle Mikey.
Now this is the Uncle Mikey Show, which is Zip's favorite cartoon. Now remember, this film was created long before bad animation became in vogue. And it's the work of Mike Merrill, who pretty much struggled with all the established and serious constructed models and animation, but totally blew us away with what is really of quite a sophisticated parody of kids' cartoons. It's really one of my favorite parts.
Hey, boss, wake up. We're over ohmTown.
There's a nice contrast here between the silly kiddie cartoon and our lovable childish Zip, and Mock, on the other hand, who's sitting there looking totally wired while he's demonstrating his penchant for certain mind-altering substances.
White, good or evil, we've evolved beyond that.
But Uncle Mikey says we should know the difference.
We all must have our own personal view of right and wrong.
But is what we are doing evil?
Of course not. Remember, Zip, evil spelled backwards is live. And we all want to do that.
Oh, yeah. But Uncle Mikey says that,
So until next week, boys and girls.
And as per the tradition during this production of various members of the crew swapping roles, the voice of Uncle Mikey here is John Halfpenny, who, as you remember, started as an animator, became a writer, and he's now a voice actor. Well, here we are in the piano lounge of the blimp, the good ship Maggot. This is sort of the calm before the storm. Robin Budd storyboarded this sequence and came up with a lot of these ideas for Mock, and worked with Anne-Marie, who obviously was animating and helping the storyboard of Angel's part of the scene.
ohmTown.
And here we have the down shot, the aerial shot of ohmTown again. It was a huge painting. It was about 6 feet by 4 feet. And it took Louis Cravogna, took him ages to paint it, probably 4 or 5 weeks. So we really wanted to get a good use out of it.
You and me.
Me.
Let's go away together.
Fiji.
One of the things to remember, we didn't record this film in over 2 or 3 days. We recorded it over 2 or 3 years. We would go into the studio when there was something to record. We would develop a sequence and take the actors into the studio, record the sequence, take it back and work with it, and then modify it if necessary. But we were in and out of the studio for almost 3 years. And then we probably did pickups right at the very end. This was very, very, very difficult to animate, this black scene here. Very expensive too.
She can sing or she can scream. But she still pissed me off. Get me that worm, Milar. Tell him that I want a concert at the power plant tomorrow night. Drug the girl and wire her to the circuit
And off we go to ohmTown. And once more we use our wonderful background. See, that's like 6 uses of it already. So here we are, back in ohmTown, back at Mylar's. And the tough Omar and his band are still under the influence of those special effects we gave them back in New York. And of course they're reduced to a very, very soft version of themselves, Omar and the Daycares. Rick Nelson, who wrote the music from Cheap Trick, really did a very, very smart thing here. He turned the song that we heard very early in the beginning, which was a tough I Hate You song. He just turned it upside down and turned it into this nice I Love You, this soft, mushy love tune. Very funny.
Why? Because you wouldn't listen to Mylar. I said duo. The guy and the girl. Duo! What? Tonight? Mark? At the power plant? Hey guys, I got a real concert to MC. You're on your own.
So Omar and the Daycare's beautiful lullaby take us out of Mylar's and we establish the ominous power plant. So here we are inside the power plant. This is the big finale. We got a storm brewing, of course, and we introduced Mock again, this time as a performer. And we've created this flying, hovering organ-like instrument for him to play. He creates the music and also his controlling angel who's strapped into this nasty piece of equipment. The song that we're hearing, this is Debbie Harry again, who wrote this opening sort of incantation music. It's a lot of mumbo-jumbo, but it sort of works with Mock's mumbo-jumbo style of performing.
The boss needs more power. More booster power now.
We wanted to push the idea that the power plant was able to increase its intake of electricity by reeling out this huge, huge, big fat lightning rod that was bigger than all the others. Dialogue is a little bit heavy-handed here, just again to make sure the audience gets this preposterous technology that we've created. So what happens here, of course, is that there's an overload in the city and it shorts out everything and it gives the boys the shock of their life.
Hey, Omar, I just had this crazy
and brings them back to normal.
Nice guy.
How crazy is that?
We're back in Ohmtown. Last thing I remember.
After they get the shock, they've got to put everything back together again really, really quickly. We got to hear their thoughts and know that they're back on the case.
Omar, the only thing she cares about is being up there with him.
You can't believe that.
It's true. I saw
A little
them
bit of
together.
cheating here in terms of the time frame, how long it would take them to get out of the club and figure out where they are and what they've got to do.
Everybody, freeze. You.
And of course, we've seen the quad hole routine before, so we didn't need to go through the whole thing again. You know what happened. So here's our famous slit scan again. So here we are traveling up the mountain. The car is shot the same way that we did it earlier on. We used the model, and in this instance we would set up the model and sort of hand drive it along a path that the storyboard would indicate. And the background layout would be determined from that series of stills. That's how we will get it to match. We take the camera and dive it right into the star tunnel. Now this is Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop performs the vocal part of the beast and brings this abomination to life. This was an incredible... He was great to work with. Iggy Pop was actually quite brilliant. He got totally into it. At one point he was in the booth and he dropped something and it was really noisy and I don't know what it was, but somehow he worked it into his soundtrack and it was very funny. So the car that turns sideways in the tunnel to clear the door from closing was a complete and total rip-off from Star Wars. Thank you, George. It's a good one. And Mott looking evil and bloody here. An Angel writhing. This is Frank Nissen pushing Angel onto a whole other very erotic level. It's another reason why the kiddies didn't get to see this picture. So here is the actual eruption of the beast, and you'll notice all those little babies that lead the tentacles out of the pit. Really quite disgusting. Now the beast, very interesting character. Traditionally animated, just in 2D.
It's evil.
Rendered with pencil crayons to create the dimensional quality of it. And then to put the texture in, we bought pounds and pounds of cow brains and organized it on the rostrum camera and placed all this mucky stuff over these strips of cardboard that ran sort of north, south, east, west. And then as we shot it, frame by frame, we had different people standing around this meat, sliding these pieces of cardboard that made the meat look like it was kind of oozing and writhing. Using these mats, we put that inside the beast animation to give it its texture. The problem was with that under the hot lights, the meat would start to simmer and we'd have to reset with fresh meat every 10 minutes or so. Now here we sacrificed Zip, and this was a big issue in the studio because everybody loves Zip, the big cuddly sensitive child-minded schlepper brother. It was rather a shame, but we really had to do it. We really wanted to mean business, so we popped him. His wheels will never turn again. You might note that he's actually wearing Uncle Mikey roller skates. But of course, you see, this also brought Toad and Sleazy on side, because they wanted revenge for their brother. So in a kind of removed way, Omar had some backup. So this is a really important moment for Angel. She's determined. She can sing it up so she can sing it back. So she throws off her shackles and stands before the beast. All that lovely meat in the background. She stands before the meat and sings. So Angel is determined to beat the beast here on her own. She throws off her shackles and gets strong.
What will the signal be for your eyes to see me?
The big story here is the music production. Debbie Harry and Chris Stein wrote and recorded their pieces in New York, and Cheap Trick recorded in Chicago and Los Angeles. And they were never in the studio together at the same time. So this whole combination of Debbie Harry music, Cheap Trick music, and Patricia Cullen's score were all recorded in different studios at different times and had to be brought together. So I would be running around from one studio to another with these tapes, bringing in one band on one tape to another band who's in the studio ready to record on top of that or in sync with it. And of course, technology in those days, it wasn't digital. So we actually had to sync up 2-inch magnetic tape recorders and players so that they actually worked in sync with each other, which is not as easy as it sounds. In some cases they would take 30 seconds, 45 seconds just to sync up. And here's Mock desperately trying to play his organ again and trying to get something happening, but it's just not working. Even the backlit effects are not as bright as they were before. And of course here's Toad with his revenge. Has he gone? Oh no, he hasn't. Gonna make one desperate attempt. Actually, we just brought him back so that he can realize the error of his ways. There is no one voice. And of course, who gets the final word is Mylar. For this shot, and for some of the earlier shots, we built a model of the power plant as we did build models of the cars and other things. And the power plant sort of sat on its mountain, and the model stood about 5 feet high. And the intention here was to paint it to look flat, not like a 3D model, which we did. But the idea was to do a 360-degree aerial shot around it and do this amazing, finale shot. But by this time, we were unfortunately all exhausted. The story was over. We were over budget. And anyway, it was time for the credits, which I believe run almost as long as the film does. Well, there you have it. Those are some of the thoughts that we had during the making of Rock and Roll, some of the ideas, the devices, and inspirations we used. Thanks to everybody's perseverance and the talents of dozens of young, energetic animators and designers, artists, technicians, writers, musicians. Without them, the film would never have happened. It started the careers of many who have gone on to direct, their own feature films and worked on other people's productions and other features and other television series. It was a really, really exciting time for everybody. We were all learning. We'd never done this before. We were inventing everything we did, basically, and we invented the technology and we invented the devices and methods to do things. It was really an amazing experience, and it was an amazing responsibility for me too. My first feature film. So thanks to everybody, and to you for listening to these ramblings.